lights, camera, action. Okay, so for this one, we're gonna do Module 2 Pre Bronze and Module 2 Notes together so that you guys can learn how to do this. So it's gonna be boundless reading. I'm gonna have you watch the video and you can pause when you need to pause. So on page 11 in your notebooks, make sure that you are putting this into page 11. You're gonna write down, these are your Module 2 reading notes. So that's gonna be your heading. Module 2 notes, and the topic of this one is laboratory safety. So if you go to Module 2, you'll log into CK12 and you're gonna join the class. That article, I've printed it out here. I'll also have a couple copies for you printed if you wanna do it on paper while we go through this. But I'm gonna show you how to take notes for this class, and then how you'll fill out a processing page. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read through these. I'm going to be reading this out loud. You obviously do not have to. You can read this however you want. This will most likely be on a computer for you, but I'm going to highlight it on pieces of paper. So the topic here is safety in science. And then my first section is safety symbols. So I'm going to write a heading here. And you don't have to take your notes the way that I take them, but you can use this as an example. So my first heading is safety symbols. Okay, lab procedures I'll start from the beginning. Research in physical science can be exciting, but it has potential dangers. For example, the field scientist in this photo is collecting water samples. There are many microorganisms that can make him sick. The water and shore can be strewn with dangerous objects, broken glass bottles that would cause serious injury. Whether in the field or the lab, knowing how to stay safe in science is important. So right here, this is my main point of the article, but I don't really need to write that down. That's kind of common sense to me. I know that staying safe is important. So I'm going to go to the first section. So, lab procedures and equipment may be labeled with safety symbols. These symbols warn of specific hazards, such as flames or broken glass. Learn the symbols so you will recognize the dangers and then learn how to avoid them. So, what do I need to actually write down from this? Because you don't want to write it in word for word. So, I'm going to say that procedures are labeled with symbols. Okay, the symbols are specific. So we learn the symbols, and then you learn how to avoid them. That's all I need to write down from that one. Okay? So now I'm going to go on to my next section. I'm going to flip this over. I have the lab safety symbols printed right here, but you also have these on page 9. So that's already written for you on page 9. If you feel like coloring them in because that helps you, go for it. So I'm going to write can color. I will probably do that on my example notebook, but it is up to you. Okay, do you know how to avoid these hazards? Wearing protective gear is one way to avoid many hazards. Use hot mitts to protect your hands. To avoid eye hazards, wear safety goggles. So I'm going to write wear safety goggles and gloves. I don't need to write why. I can figure that out later. Okay, my next section heading, so I'm going to write a new one. Safety rules. And again, that's my next heading. So I'm going to color code my headings here so that I know what I'm talking about here. You don't have to do this, it's just how I like to take my notes. So I'm now in the setting that says safety rules in my reading. Wear a long sleeve shirt or long sleeves. So I'm going to write down the things that I think are the most important, okay? So long sleeves, tie hair back, goggles and gloves, use hot mitts to handle hot objects. I already know that one. I read it twice. I don't think I need to read it down or write it down. No eating or drinking. That's going to be a big one to make sure you're not doing in a science classroom. So you're not eating or drinking near the lab. Never do experiments without your teacher's approval. You won't have the opportunity to do that. Always add acid to water. Take care to avoid knocking over the Bunsen burners. I'm going to say waft instead of smelling. clean up, that's an important one. And then, so clean up and wash lab supplies. Those are the only ones I think aren't the most important. Those are the ones I'm going to write down. Never point to the open end of a test tube. That's also an important one, but you don't need to copy down this whole list. So from this list, copy the most important. If you think that you're going to forget it, then write it down. If you think you know it for sure, then you don't have to. All right, I'm on to a new section now. So in case of accident. And notice how I'm not writing down these notes word for word. Notice that I'm actually separating these down into sections so that you guys can do that too, because your notes can only take up this page. All right, even when you follow the rules, accidents can happen. Immediately alert your teacher, report them. Okay, so I'm going to report them to the teacher immediately. And that was really the most important fact here. So if you read this section, immediately alert your teacher, report them whether or not you think they are serious. So report to teacher, and I'm going to write always. That's how I'm going to summarize that. Okay, now let's read through here. The summary. Let's see if I need anything. Lab safety symbols warn of specific hazards. Following basic safety rules, such as wearing safety gear, helps prevent. All accidents should be reported. That's a pretty good summary. I don't need to copy that down. You can if you want to. What your next section should be, though, is review. So I'm going to make another section of my notes that says review. And I'm going to give it a big heading because it's now a new section. I'm not taking notes anymore. So I'm going to label these questions. Number 1, what hazard do you think this safety symbol represents? So I'm going to go back to my safety symbol handout on page 9 or right here and see if I have it right here. So I don't see one that matches here, so I'm just going to write down what I think. So what hazard do I think this showing? This is a test tube, and then it looks like it's dropping on here, and then it's dropping on my hand. So I might say something about that looks like it is telling me to be careful and wear gloves with my test tube, right? Okay, then identify 3 safety rules that can help you prevent accidents. So I'm going to say wear goggles. Let's see. Clean up the lab. And you can write whatever ones stick out to you. Never point a test tube at a person. Those are my 3. Number 3 on this review question says create a safety poster. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that you do not need to do that. Do not create unless you want to. So this could be a process page idea. So I'm going to make a note of that. And then I'm going to go over these ones. So the Explore More section you can read if you need to, but you don't really have to. And that's the end of this article. So now what the most important part of this one, the part that you get your grades for. So you'll get a check as a grade for finishing your notes, but what you need to do is your process page. So this is my lab safety, and you're going to write whatever it is that you do. So you could do a concept map, you could write a summary, you could write a reflection. For mine, what I'm actually going to do, my process page, is I'm going to say draw a lab safety poster. So this one, you can use any of the art supplies that we have, but this one does have to be in color. So for me, I'm going to write a lab safety poster. So I'm not a very good artist, and I don't want to take up most of your time while you do this. I want you to be able to read the notes, get this done, and then write your poster. But I might make a poster about having a test tube in class. So I would write my circle, right? This is going to be my don't do this circle. And then I'll be putting that in red. I would fill this in, right? So I'm going to color this, and what I'm going to draw under there is someone in the lab. So here's my person, and they're holding a test tube, and their test tube is going to be pointed directly at someone else. So this is my second person. Okay, so this is a person. Pretend that I can draw for this, but I can't. So this is my person, and then this is my first person holding this test tube to this person's face. And then I'm going to talk about why you don't do that. I'm not drawing it for real, guys. You don't have to make fun of me. So then I'm going to write, don't hold a test tube to another face. Okay, so that's how I'm going to process this. You could also make like a lab safety contract that you could do. So I'm going to write some ideas on the bottom, and I'm going to make this like decent when I actually show you guys. So ideas. So what could I do? I could write a summary. I could write I could make a poster of a lab safety rule. I could do a Venn diagram. You could make a list of do's and don'ts. What else? You could draw a graphic organizer. You could make a web. You could write a personal reflection or story. So maybe you've broken a lab rule, and what did this help teach you? So anything. If your process idea isn't on this list, go ahead and tell me your idea before. So say that you want to do something. Check your idea with Miss Matthews, and this is what you're going to submit. So to submit this assignment, what I would do is I'm going to open up my notebook on page 10 and 11 when they're done, and I'm going to take a picture of these two pages. So I'll take a picture of this page, I'll take a picture of this page, and I'm going to put those on a Google Doc and submit these. So as long as 10 and 11 are done, then you'll be good to go. And then the only other thing you want to get done tonight is bronze 1. So your goal for the day, okay? Your goal is your module reading and notes, your process page. So mine would be a process poster, and then Q1M2 Bronze 1. Okay, you can choose whatever. So mine is a lab safety poster. And then you're going to fill out your table of contents on page 2.